tonight to tonight's No Nonsense Naturopath Live, where I aim to offer you simple and straightforward ways to incorporate healthy habits into your life so that you can get more out of what you're doing. I am very, very excited tonight to welcome Kingsley Colley as our special guest presenter. Kingsley is going to present habits for the ultimate tomorrow. But before he does that, we're going to go through some housekeeping. So bear with me. So what we're going to do tonight, housekeeping, the check-in, I have a quote for the night, and then we'll get on to the really important stuff. Important for me, it's coming, I promise. For everyone that's been asking, the Thrive Her portal, which is a portal specifically for women, offering advice, education, and a supportive community. It is about reinventing yourself and not accepting the norms of aging that we generally have shoved down our throats. We are going to live our best lives until at least 110. So anyhow, Thrive Her is coming in the next, let's say, week. So watch your emails. Now, for anyone listening out there at any time, I would love you to check in to your favorite social media page, post that you're watching, post a photo of whatever you happen to be doing, your computer screen, the food that you're shoveling down at the same time, whatever you'd like. Check into the No Nonsense Naturopath Live. That would be great because that helps support the show and makes it easier for other people to see. So I'm kind of feeling a little bit Muppet Showish here. I'm about to break into song, but it's on with the show. Okay, so we have Kingsley here. So a big welcome to Kingsley. Kingsley is an author, a podcast presenter, speaker, coach, and he works with business professionals and really helps them create their ultimate tomorrow. And he, like I, believes everybody can live life passionately every day without too much stress. So
gotta have a bit of stress.
I am going to throw it over to Kingsley now, and he can take you through the next little bit. Thank you, Kingsley.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rochelle. Let me just jump in here and share my screen, which would be this one, I believe. This one. There we go. All right. Here we go. Thank you very much, Rochelle. Yeah, as you said, creating the ultimate tomorrow. I'm a very big believer that we can create our ultimate tomorrow. Most people, I've found, a lot of people actually get to a point in life where it's like, you know what, that's it. That's all there is. I just got to do what I can to enjoy the rest of life and not really enjoy it. But I totally believe that we can actually really enjoy the rest of our life. And that's what I guess one of my missions is, to help create the life that you want, because every one of us should be able to and can actually do that. And Rochelle, I'm excited that you invited me on, because the reality is that the only way we can do that, or to start with that, we've got to get our physical and mental health intact. So I'm really excited that that's what you're all about, is doing that side of things so people can actually move on from there. So tomorrow is not today. I'll just run over really quickly what that actually means and where the name comes from, because I get a lot of questions about this. So I've been through a couple of things in my life which weren't the most exciting aspects of life, and they're the big ones, the big dips, and then you've got the other smaller dips where things come and go, whether they're good, exciting or not. And it just clicked one day that what happens is whatever's happening now, that's not tomorrow. So whether things are good or bad now, it's going to change tomorrow. Everything goes in cycles. We've got day and night. We've got the seasons. You got the tides coming in and going out. You got interest rates going up and going down. Inflation's going up and going down. In farm, the seed time and harvest, everything goes in cycles, and so too with our life. So what happens is whether things, if you're in the worst possible place that you could ever imagine, and you feel like it's the end right now, that's today. But tomorrow is not today. And you know things are going to get better. And to me, that is incredibly exciting, because that's the best place or the best time for us to actually learn, to grow, to become the people that we really, truly want to become. That's when we input the habits into our life that can actually take us to different places. And then the other side of that, you might be on top of the world right now where you think life could not possibly get any better. And it could be true. But I can tell you one thing, if very optimistically, that's going to change, that tomorrow is not today and things are going to take a bit of a turn. That's not a negative thing. That's how life goes, because without the downside of life, we don't get to enjoy the good side of life as much as we possibly could. And when we're up there in those places, that's a great time to put in place, again, the habits, the things that are going to take us through to make the down times easier to get through, where we build our strength, we build our securities, where we put things in place that will carry us through when things may not be going so well. So that's what tomorrow's not today is all about. Whatever's going on right now, it's going to change, and it's a great opportunity to prepare us for the next season or the next cycle of life. So as Rochelle said, we work mostly with business professionals to help you create the life you want. That's what this is all about. So I will say, and I'll say this very strongly, that if you implement what we talk about tonight, you will enjoy work at a greater level. You'll be physically and mentally healthier. You'll be more productive, less stressed. Now, I've got to say here that some stress is actually a good thing, and we'll touch on that later. Too much of the wrong stress, yeah, bad. Don't want that. But stress is actually a good thing, and we need stress in our life. Your relationships will be better. You'll be happier. And for me, a big one is being fulfilled in life, not just doing stuff, not just achieving or being successful, but it's living a fulfilling life, which is what's important. And to me, one of the ultimate things, to build a proud legacy that we can leave the world. I was always told growing up that whenever you go somewhere, you always leave it in a better place, better way than where you found it. And that's what I think we should be able to do with our life. And we can do all this in around 10 minutes a day. I know it doesn't sound believable, apart from people like Rochelle, but outside of us, people that aren't super people, men, women, whatever, it does take a bit longer usually, but you can do it in 10 minutes a day as well. So story time, a little bit about how I come to put this together. It's the fact that basically about 10 years ago, I went through a divorce, and I was the last person on the planet that was ever going to happen to. And it totally trashed me, like really trashed me to the core. And I had 3 kids though. And so I had to be there for them. I had to become the dad they needed, the man that they needed, the provider, everything that they needed. And I wasn't that person. It rocked me. And so I started going out and running every morning about 6 or 8 Ks at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I'd go for a swim in the ocean. At the time, I had no idea this is the best thing I could have possibly been doing for myself. I just did it because if I didn't, I was going to be in bed, which I slept with my laptop, playing happy, positive stuff all night so I could actually get to sleep. And that's what I did. And I'll be totally honest, at the time, going for a swim, I'm like, why don't I just keep going? Nobody cares. Nobody's going to wonder. No biggie. Anyone that does, they'll get over it. And then I remembered my kids. And when I remembered them, that changed everything. So I got back, pulled myself together, got out there and started learning and growing and developing, changing what I did, how I ate, learning to grow myself as a person. I studied consistently and did so much more that I could do. That's where this whole program has come from. And like I said, Doesn't matter where you are or what's going on. Tomorrow is not today, and it's up to us to make a decision to change things. And one of the things that I did do with that was the 75 Hard Challenge by Andy Frisella. I won't go into the details right now, but basically out of doing that, I wrote this book called Create Your Ultimate Tomorrow, 10 Precepts to Revolutionize Your Entire Life, which is available if you'd like to get a copy of it. But these are 10 things that either I totally learned or totally got reinvigorated in me to change, which then led to actually me creating the coaching programs, etc. as well. So, as we talked about before, stress doesn't always have to be bad, but there is a lot of bad stuff about stress. Dr. Mark Hyman says the best way to burn off stress hormones without having to change your thinking is to move and sweat. Now, one of the last things we want to do when we're stressed is to go out and exercise, apart from maybe punch a few things. But outside of that, we just want to crawl up in bed in the fetal position, put on a dreary old sad movie and lie there and hope the world goes by. But it's not going to happen. We need to make a decision to do something about it. And so here's some of the things that stress can cause. The negative stress: heart disease, asthma, obesity, diabetes, headaches, depression and anxiety, etc., goes on with this. These are the bad stress. So basically, when stress gets to a point where we're not in control of our life and it goes on for too long at a too deep a level. There is good stress, as I mentioned before. Good stress is having a bit of cortisol going through your body that actually gives you motivation. It gives you clarity. It gives you alertness. Good amount of stress is actually really, really good for us. Bad stress, not so much. And it's something that we need to avoid as much as we possibly can. So when I mentioned before about the good times and the bad times are these stressful situations. And that's where we can take these and go, okay, what can I do right now to make this stress a good thing for me and help me? And as Dr. Mark Hyman has said, get out there, move and sweat, exercise, do things like that. Change our focus of what we're thinking about. And all these things are really habits that we put into our life. So if things aren't going too well, what's your habit that you have to get over this stress? Do you go outside and move and sweat? Do you pick up the phone and complain to somebody and tell everybody how bad things are? Not that that's always a bad thing. We need to be able to talk to people. But what habits do we have in place? Because if you're by yourself, and as you know, when you're going through the darkest times in life, you feel like you are alone. And it's the worst time on the planet that anybody has ever been through. But there's things that we can do. And so if we don't do that, these are some of the things that happen to us. Now, quite often things are going fine, and we don't take any notice of what's happening because everything's fine. You know, we're eating what we eat. We're not really exercising too much. We're focusing maybe on the right things. But all these things creep up on us depending on what's going on in our mind, what's going on in our mouth, and what we're doing with our body. We need to get out there and move and put the right things in place. One of the big stats that when I saw this totally shocked me was a guy by the name of Jim Rohn, who most people would have heard of, said, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live, which I thought was a pretty good quote. And this other stats come, it says 86 cents of every dollar spent on medical care goes to the symptom management of ailments that are reversible and preventable via lifestyle improvement. So in other words, if we're spending a lot of money on pills, seeing the doctor, on counseling, all of this sort of thing, 86 cents out of every dollar that we spend can be reversed or prevented just by what we do. And again, these are all habits. What is our habit when it comes to lunchtime? What is your habit that you use when you go to lunch? What is your habit for breakfast? What you do when you first get up in the morning? What habits do you have in place to actually take you where you want to go? Or do you just get up and you're doing okay, so you're just going to go out and then have a big bowl of cereal, which is covered in sugar, whether you put sugar on it or not, it's covered in sugar, and a whole bunch of other things like that. that we need to be very, very careful what habits we have in place. To me, one of the biggest things we can have is a morning routine and an evening routine. And I learned this from Darren Hardy probably about 10 years ago. I thought routines are absolutely ridiculous. I hate being stuck in boxes and being told I got to do this and only do this. However, once I discovered the actual implementation of putting routines in place, I found I was actually free. I wasn't held in a box. I was actually a free human to be able to create what I wanted and help me go where I want to go. And by doing that, that actually helps every aspect of life. So, habits. What are your morning habits? Morning routines? What are your evening habits? What helps you get to sleep? What helps you get to a place where your mind is in the right place? So, for example, getting up in the morning at the same time every day helps set the circadian rhythm inside of us so your body knows when to release melatonin and then tells you when you need to get sleepy again. Going to bed at the same time at night, which we're going to cover a little bit later on as well. That sleep is all important, and it's all, not all, but a large part of it is down to our morning and evening routines and our habits that we actually have in place. Exercise. You can see what exercise does there. There's about 20 other things I could list on there, but let's go to one of the biggest things that's really, really important. A bunch of universities have done studies on this. The latest one that I know of come out of South Australia from last year, and they now want to put exercise as part of the cure or the remedies for depression, because exercise actually helps you get relieved of depression and anxiety. One thing I can say, and having been in that place, if you go out and exercise, if you're depressed and you're anxious and you're not exercising right now, to be totally blunt, there's something that you are deliberately avoiding that you can actually do for yourself and that you're not doing, because it's up to us to make a choice, to make a decision, and put in these habits. It's going to help us. A lot of people like to exercise in the morning. I'm a morning exercise person. Some people like to exercise at night. And sometimes it depends on your career, on kids, on what's going on at home with work, all that sort of thing. But the main thing is get out and exercise on a regular basis. If I was to put a caveat over the general thing, make it at least 4 days a week for at least 30 minutes. Making sure you get your heart pumping, your blood pumping, building your heart rate up. That's obviously an overgeneralized way of saying it. But if I was to, because the question always is, how often do I exercise for? How long have I got to exercise for? What exercise do I need to do? So that's just a general caveat that covers 99% of people as far as being able to get out there and do things. Your immune system, for example, if you find yourself getting ill, as silly as it might sound, go out and exercise. It actually helps. All of these things. It helps us sleep a lot better as well. Exercise, actually, there's something they discovered about 10 years ago, and they actually call it the happy hormone. So what happens is when we get exercising, there's a little hormone goes through our body, through the blood up into our brain, and it makes us literally happier by exercising. That's why often you go out for a day, whether it's a day at the beach or you're going somewhere and you've got a lot of exercise and outside in the sun, you might be tired, but you feel fantastic. And that's because part of this to do with the whole exercise factor. Sleep. Sleep is a big, big thing. I used to hate sleeping with a passion. I thought it was the biggest waste of time that ever was invented. And why would anybody want us to sleep? And then I found we were created to sleep. But sleep is such an important thing. And for the most of us, 7 to 8 hours sleep is what we actually need. One of the big things I mentioned before about going to sleep at the same time and getting up at the same time is the fact that when we go to sleep, this human growth hormone, which is coming through us 24 hours a day. But what happens if you go to bed at, say, 9 o'clock? In your first 90-minute cycle of sleep, there's what's called the human growth hormone comes in. There's a massive globule of human growth hormone that goes through our body, which does a massive amount in that one session of releasing that human growth hormone to actually relieve us, cleanse us, clean our bodies out, help us get back into good condition, which is a large part of what sleep's about. And if we go to sleep outside of that 90 minutes, we don't get that massive amount of human growth hormone coming through our body into our brain and helping us that way. So we're missing out on all this goodness and refreshment that comes through sleep by doing that. The other side of that as well is if we miss out on about 2 hours of sleep, the next day your brain is actually going to be functioning and in a level that pretty much what can we say? Pretty much you're over the limit. As if you've been drinking, you're over oh 05. That's how you're going to function for the next day because it just cannot keep going properly without the sleep. That's how important it is. Sleep helps you lose weight. So if that's one of the things you're after, there you go. There's one of your cures right there. It helps your memory, obviously. It gives you increased productivity. We all know about how that works. So that's why it's important. Again, as I said before, the circadian rhythm, sleep at the same time, and get up at the same time, helps your circadian rhythm, helps your body get into this routine of what needs to happen. Gut health, which Shell is an expert on, but I just want to, and you've probably heard lots about that already, but I do want to touch on this. Half of your dopamine is produced in the gut. So if you're not getting the happy hormone, the dopamine, half of that is actually produced in the gut by what we're eating, by what we're putting in there. And the stats on what happens there is just absolutely insane. 100 trillion bacteria, which just totally blows my mind. I can't even get my head around that figure to start with of how big that is. It's just mind-boggling. The other side, when it comes to dopamine as well, one thing we all know it's a happy hormone. We all understand that. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand, though, is dopamine comes from us actually striving and working towards something and wanting to go in a direction and pursuing something. A lot of people come home from work and they just want to collapse because I'm tired, I just want to rest, or I don't feel well, or whatever. 100% we need to rest. But if that's all you do and you're not striving for something worthwhile, if you're not pushing for something that you want to do, that you want to pursue, that you want to for yourself or for somebody else or whatever, what happens is you're missing out on a lot of dopamine. That's where a lot of our happiness comes from, not from sitting around doing nothing. It's really interesting how the brain, the body, and the mind all works together. And the gut microbiome obviously affects the brain function. Well, that's what tells the brain how to function to a certain degree. Poor gut health, we talked about stress before. Poor gut health is one of the big things in that. So again, if you're stressed, if you're anxious, fix up what you're eating. A lot of your cure can be found in there. Water, another really, really big one is water. Now, I must admit, I haven't had enough today. I've probably had about 2 liters, if that. Need to be having at least 3 liters of water. It promotes healthy skin. It prevents dehydration. It helps to regulate the body temperature and a whole bunch more. The brain is made up of 85% water. So we need a lot of water to keep going. So why am I talking about all of this? I'm talking about all of this because these are habits we need to put into our life before we can actually start doing anything else. Before anything can really come through properly, we need to have these basic things in our life as habits, because if we don't have them, you're not going to function as well. You're not going to be as productive. You're going to be more stressed, and you're not going to be able to do what you really want to do. That's why they're so important. Had to do that. Okay, habits. Let's get on to what habits are and a little bit about how we can actually deliberately implement habits into our life. So by the time you're 35 years old, more than 70% of your life is on autopilot. In other words, you don't think about it. So 70% of everything you do, you don't even think about. So if we mentioned before, what's your habit you do for lunch? You're just going to go there. For most people, they'll go to the same canteen, the same cafe or whatever. They'll buy the same thing and eat it. They'll go to the same shops and buy the groceries and get the same thing, and they'll just eat it again. Whatever we're used to, whatever is normal, we're on autopilot. That's it. We don't think much about it. So what that means is we don't live a life of intentionality. And by not living a life of intentionality, we're just flowing with what happens. And then we wake up, we're 40, 50, 60 years old and go, oh, how did that happen? How did I get here? What have I done? We want to live a life to create our ultimate tomorrow, to live who we want to live. It's about putting habits in place, but the good habits in place. Habits are great in the fact that it means we got to think less and we can live a lot on autopilot. Habits are bad because it means we think a lot less and our life is on autopilot. We've got to define where we want to go and who we want to be. So, true or false? Habits reduce the need to make decisions. True, it does reduce the need to make decisions. However, we need to be watching what decisions we're actually making and not just have those decisions basically made on autopilot, because most of the decisions you make are not decisions. They're just things that your body knows what to do automatically. Another one, it takes 21 days to form a habit. True or false?
I'll go true.
You'll go true? Okay. 21 days to form a habit. That came from a plastic surgeon who I can't remember his name right now, back in the 50s, who basically what happened is it took them 21 days for people after they got their new face done to recognize themselves habitually as to who they are and what they are. That's where that comes from. So for some people, it does take 21 days, but habits can take a varying time to actually build. So they can start, you might build a habit in 17 days. You might build a habit in 279 days. It depends who you are. It depends what the habit is, and depends on how focused you are on building that habit. And we can help you build faster habits as well. There's ways to do that. So a habit, there's no set time frame. For some, it is 21 days. For the most, it's going to be a little bit different to that. And for most, it's actually going to be longer. When we do most of our coaching and training and masterminds and that sort of thing, generally speaking, we're doing most of them over 3 months or more. The reason is I don't just want people to do stuff. I want people to build habits, because once they build the habits, we know we got long-term effects and people are going to go where they want to go and how they want to go. Another one, habits are easier to form when you visualize yourself doing the habit you want to build before actually doing it. So in other words, before you actually do the habit, you sit there and visualize yourself doing it. Does that make it easier to build a habit? Yes or no?
Oh, I think that depends on the person.
Playing it safe.
Let's say yes for the majority of people.
Yep, it is. For some reason, you're right. It is. If you visualize yourself doing it before actually physically doing it, the habit actually gets formed a lot quicker. They've actually done studies where they've had people who have had to learn piano. People have actually practiced and studied piano. They had actually do it, and then some they actually had where they actually got them to visualize where their fingers were going and what was happening, and watching that all happening in the mind. And it made no difference to how well they played if they followed through that thing properly. Our mind
As an ex-muso, that totally happens.
Yeah. Our mind is unbelievable. So the visualization factor is huge, and visualization can help set these habits as well. So how do we build habits? Number one, you've got to know what habit do you want to build and why do you want to build that habit. There's no point just going, I'm just going to build a habit and see what happens. You've got to know what it is. It's like everything. We've got to know who we are, where we go, and what we're doing. Why do you want to build that habit in the first place? And what is it exactly you're wanting to build? Number two, visualize yourself doing the habit like we just talked about. Set a cue. You want to make yourself to do that habit. So what is going to trigger you to make you go, okay, oh, that's right, I've got to do this habit now. Make it easy as possible to do, and then reward yourself afterwards for doing it. So let's go back over those things. Let's take a habit of, let's pick something unusual. Exercise. Let's run with exercise. You want to build a habit of exercise, the morning's going to be the best time for it. You wake up and your clock, your alarm is, or your phone, whatever it is you use for alarm, is right next to your bed. You're used to getting up at 6 o'clock. You've set that at 7 o'clock. You've set that for 6 o'clock. Your alarm's right next to you. It's getting a little bit cooler in the day, in the mornings, and you're nice and cozy. You're all snuggled up and you're happy as, and your alarm goes off. And all you got to do is press that snooze button. It's still dark because it's getting darker. You know you want to exercise. And right now, you cannot visualize yourself getting out there to exercise. It's way too cold. It's too warm. You're not used to it. And it's an hour earlier than normal. You've set your cue, but it's just not happening. You've made it too hard to do. So here's a couple of things that you can actually set up as a practical example to get that happening. So you set your alarm at 6 o'clock in the morning. However, your alarm is in your ensuite and you've turned it up, and without you getting up to turn that thing off, there is no way that that's going to turn off. You can't go back to sleep. You can't rest because the alarm's going off, whether it's just for you, whether it's for you and the rest of the family. You got to get that thing turned off. So you got to get out of bed and do it. You go into your ensuite and you turn the thing off. And guess what? In your ensuite, there's your sports gear ready to go, ready to put on. So as soon as you get in there, this is in front of me now. I'm like, oh, that's right. I was going to do that, wasn't I? And you know, you're already up. They're right in front of you. You've turned your alarm off. You've promised yourself. You made yourself a promise. You didn't just do it. You've actually made yourself a promise that you're going to get fitter. You're going to get healthier. You know, you need to lose a bit of weight. You know, you need to get over some of that stress. You've been hearing Rochelle talk to you about how you need to be healthy and get more healthy. So it's time to get out there and do it. So the cue has happened to do the habit. You've made it easier because you've had to get up already. Your clothes are out, ready to go, ready to put on. So you get out there and you go, whether you're going for a run, you're going to the gym, you're going for a walk, whatever it is, you're getting out there. And the first time you might go and you might walk for 5 minutes. Congratulations. That's fantastic. You might go to the gym and you might do 10, 15 minutes. You might do two bits of equipment on the gym. Fantastic. You've done it. On the way home, you buy yourself a coffee, you get a protein shake, whatever it is. Buy yourself, do some sort of reward. It's actually going to move positively for you to help this happen. You've started your habits. You've done one. You've made it happen. You've made it easier. You've made it hard to stay in bed. You've made it easy to get dressed and get out there. And you could see yourself doing it and fulfilling the promise you made to yourself. So that's, I know, a very quick example of how to set some habits or to change habits. As Zig Ziglar used to say, we don't break habits, we exchange habits. So if we've got a habit of doing something, we need to exchange that for a different habit rather than doing it. So in that exercise, or let's take something else. We go to the fridge and there's ice cream in there, or there's some really nice yogurt and blueberries sitting there, and it's after dinner time. Which one are we going to do? If the ice cream is right in front of us and it's easy to get to, we're going to go the ice cream. If we've got a bowl made up with a bit of yogurt and blueberries, and as soon as you open the fridge, that's right in front of you, you're making it easier to do it. You're exchanging the ice cream for some yogurt and blueberries, which is going to be much better for you. The right yogurt, of course. Right, much better for you, and it's been easier. So you made it easy. You could see yourself doing it, and you're going, you know what? If I'm exercising now, I want to change what I'm eating as well to make that better. So a couple of important hints with the building the habits. Know who you are. For some people, it's all about taking the habits. James Clear talks very much about this, having just little habits, little wins, and build on those little wins each time. Other people, it's like, nah, that's it. I hate smoking. I'm over it. I'm done. Bang, there goes the packet. I'm out. No more. Now, know who you are, because every one of us is different. But in saying that, giving up or exchanging habits for other habits that itself as well can be different. So for one, you might do little steps. For others, you might be, I'm over and I'm done with this. Know who you are, know how you're going to operate and what's going to work best for you. Number two, be patient and give yourself some grace, because I promise you, you'll start on the habit and you're gonna slip. It's gonna happen. Nobody does this perfectly. Give yourself grace and give yourself time to actually implement this into your life. The fact that you've decided, I'm going to go better, I'm going to do better, and you're making changes, that in itself is fantastic. And if you do fall off, get back on track as soon as you possibly can. And visualize yourself implementing the habit. So visualize yourself doing that habit. Take time to see yourself doing it and making that a habit in your life. This is one of the guys that I've been working with. He was incredibly stressed agent, working 7 days a week. He's now pulled down to 6 days a week, and he feels so much better, so much more. He said he's not really more productive, or sort of more productive, but the quality of his work that he's doing makes him more productive. He still gets a lot of stuff done, but he's much more productive. He's sleeping now, which is a bonus. He's working 1 day a week less and probably getting even better results now. This is basically what we use for help people put those habits into place. From the Ultimate Tomorrow Roadmap is what we call it. So 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the day. That's how I was mentioned before, about 10 minutes. If you set your day up in the morning with the habits, the routines, the things that you want to do, and then you go and check off every aspect of your life, how well you did and what you've done. Did you do your habits? And coach yourself at the end of the day. You know, in just 10 minutes a day, you've made a massive, massive impact on yourself and a massive difference. And that brings us to the end of that.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you so much.
Obviously, there's more we could go into, but
there is so much that we could go into. Anyone that has any questions, feel free to, wherever you're watching this, there is always a comments box, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on LinkedIn. Comment, because we hang around all those places and we will give you a response. So thank you so much. It's funny that you mentioned James Clear before, because this is something that I wanted to get everyone to think about. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits.
Yeah, 100%.
That's something that we should, not stress over, but really consider. And that's why habits are so important. And that's why I love the work that I do, because the clients, whether I'm seeing them online or in person, we check in every week. So I keep their habits I keep them accountable to their habits in that beautiful 3-month time point that that really takes to, I can start on a habit in 21 days, but it's not solid. It takes work, and 3 months is beautiful time point. So that's great. Is there any way that people can get in touch with you if they need to?
Absolutely, absolutely. So on LinkedIn is a good place to get me. Just look Kingsley Colley. I'm there. I'm on there pretty regularly. Usually find me a few times a week. I'm posting something on there. Facebook, you can find me Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and also if you go and have a look at Tomorrow Is Not Today on all of those platforms except for LinkedIn as well, you'll find me on there posting all about all this sort of stuff on a pretty regular basis.
So do that because there's some really important stuff that comes out. I enjoy all your feeds immensely, Kingsley. So everyone else, I'd love you to keep in Nonsense Naturopath live in your psyche next week. Next week, the topic of discussion will be test, don't guess. There are a lot of tests out there that people ask me information about. A lot of them, I honestly don't think they're worth the money that's out there, but there are some that are just really good that can help you master some of these habits that you need to provide your body with everything that it needs so that it functions optimally. So thank you once again, Kingsley. It was great to have you here, and I look forward to seeing everyone next week.